Hello, I am Flash Isaac, and today I shall be taking you through representative elements, known metals, and their compounds. In the periodic table, remember, periodic table contains arrangement of elements according to their atomic number, not atomic mass. And these elements can be classified into metals, non-metals, and metalloids or semiconductors. Metals, they ionize by electron loss, while non-metals ionize by electron gain. Metals are good conductors of electricity. Meanwhile, non-metals generally don't conduct electricity. Semiconductors, they have conductivity in between that of metals and non-metals. They can always only conduct when impurity is added to them. So the process of adding impurity to semiconductors to conduct electricity is referred to as doping. So I already released a series of videos to cover metals and their compound. And this class is to cover representative elements of non-metals. So dealing with non-metals, these are the elements that shall represent non-metals. We shall deal with them and their compounds. In the process, we touch other aspects of non-metals. And this is the table of contents. We are in preparation of gases. The first gas we shall be preparing is hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas can be prepared in the laboratory and in the industry. Same with other gases. So the first way to produce hydrogen in the lab is displacement from dilute acid by a metal. When a dilute acid reacts with metal, hydrogen is given off. Look at it. Let's say dilute acid HCl reacting with metal, let's say sodium. This will simply give you sodium chloride plus H2. So hydrogen gas is given off. The balance equation is 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. So metal displaces hydrogen from dilute acid. And the second way we can prepare hydrogen in the lab is displacement from water using metal. So metal can remove hydrogen from water. That is another way to prepare hydrogen in the laboratory. So let's give another example. Let's say this is water plus, let's use sodium as a metal. This will give you sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. So G. So this is 2, 2, 2. This is a balanced equation. This is solid. This is aqueous. This is aqueous. And this is gas. This is solid as well. Liquid, aqueous, and gas. Now look at something. In as much as metal can displace hydrogen from water, it is not in all conditions. Some metals can only displace hydrogen from warm water or in certain conditions. So that is what I did here. Potassium, sodium, and calcium can displace hydrogen from cold water. Magnesium can displace hydrogen from hot water, which means if magnesium reacts with water, it has to be hot water for hydrogen to be prepared. And zinc, iron, and lead will displace hydrogen from steam only, not cold water, not hot water, but steam. So you may be asked, which of the following can displace hydrogen from cold water? So sodium, potassium, calcium from cold water, magnesium from hot water, zinc, iron, and lead from steam only. And look at this. In case you don't understand balancing of equation, I have a detailed video on that which you can check as well. The first way to produce hydrogen in the industry is using the Bosch process. I explained this while I was explaining industrial processes. So in Bosch process, hydrogen is produced from water gas. So you see water gas reacting with water in liquid state to give you carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. Electrolysis of water. Using electrolysis of water, electrolysis of dilute H2SO4 or electrolysis of dilute sodium chloride. Electrolysis or electrolyte, they conduct electricity in their molten state or in solution. So in this case, for example, hydrogen ion and SO4 are produced. The positive ion goes to the cathode and the negative ion goes to the anode. So at the cathode, hydrogen is deposited. So hydrogen is produced. I also have a detailed video on electrolysis You may also want to watch that. Now, finally, to produce hydrogen in the industry, we use action of steam on coke. Coke is gas that contains high concentration of carbon. So we say carbon plus H2O to give us carbon monoxide and water. No, carbon monoxide and H2, correct. So hydrogen is prepared. What next? Preparation of oxygen. Oxygen can be prepared in the laboratory and in the industry as well. Laboratory preparation of oxygen. The first one is decomposition of potassium trioxochloride 5, or you can say potassium chloride. Potassium chloride decomposes in the presence of heat and catalyst manganese 4 oxide to give you potassium chloride and oxygen gas. The second way to produce or to prepare oxygen gas in the lab is decomposition of hydrogen peroxide in the presence of catalyst manganese 4 oxide. In this case, no heat is required. This gives us water and oxygen gas. So, what are the ways to prepare oxygen in the lab? 1. Decomposition of potassium chlorate. 2. Decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. How about in the industry? The fractional distillation of liquefied air will give us oxygen. What is liquefied air? When you remove carbon 4 oxide from air using caustic soda, I guess, it prevents air to solidify when cooled. So that is liquefied air. So when you distill liquefied air, you get oxygen. And another way to prepare oxygen in the industry is electrolysis of water. In the electrolysis of water, the oxygen ion move to the anode, because anions move to the anode, while cations, positive ions, they move to the cathode in electrolytic cell. So oxygen is deposited in the anode. That is another way to prepare oxygen in the industry. Now take a look at chlorine gas. How do we prepare chlorine gas in the lab, and how do we prepare chlorine gas in the industry? In the laboratory, chlorine gas can be gotten from manganese 4 oxide. How? When manganese 4 oxide reacts with hydrochloric acid, chlorine gas is given off. So this is the reaction. And the second one is, it can be gotten from potassium tetraoxomanganate 7. While dealing with oxidation number, I explained how to name compounds. And while dealing with IUPAC nomenclature, I explained how to name organic compounds. So just check out the chemistry playlist. You have more than enough videos to play with. Now, when potassium tetraoxomanganate 7 react with HCl, chlorine gas is given off. So these are the ways we prepare chlorine gas in the laboratory. How about industry? Chlorine gas can be prepared in the industry using via electrolysis of brine, using Hooker cell. What is brine? Brine is simply concentrated sodium chloride, which means we have more sodium chloride than water. So in the electrolysis of sodium chloride, concentrated sodium chloride, at the anode, negative ions, chlorine and OH minus, they migrate to the anode. But due to concentration, chlorine will be given up. So chlorine is produced via electrolysis of brine. Let's see other gases. Nitrogen gas is prepared in the lab from in situ ammonium diazonitrate. In situ simply means in the original place, intact. So this is in 2 steps. The first one is formation of ammonium diazonitrate. So NaNO3 reacts with NH4Cl to give you NH4NO3 plus 2H2O. And the second step is the composition of NH4NO2 to give you N2 and 2H2O. And this N2 is the nitrogen gas we are looking for. So we prepared nitrogen gas in the lab. However, in the industry, similarly, nitrogen gas is prepared in the industry via fractional distillation of liquefied air. So in the lab, from in situ ammonium diazonitrate, and in the industry, from fractional distillation of liquefied air. I already explained liquefied air. And what is fractional distillation? When we are separating liquids or mixture with close boiling point, you use fractional distillation. in crude oil, fractional distillation is used. But for mixture with far apart boiling point, like in making of local gin, we use simple distillation. So in the process, they separate into their various components. Look at hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide is prepared in the laboratory from dilute acid and iron sulfide in a Gibbs apparatus. Now, here this one decompose. A Gibbs apparatus is simply made up of HCl, aqueous HCl. It reacts with iron sulfide to give you iron, 2 chloride, and hydrogen sulfide. So this is what we are interested in. Hydrogen sulfide is prepared. So Gibbs apparatus is used to prepare dash hydrogen sulfide. Now in the industry, no. Ammonia. Ammonia is prepared in the lab via the heating or action of slaked lime with ammonium chloride. Now, calcium hydroxide is referred to as slaked lime. And why is it used to prepare ammonia gas? This is simply because it is cheap and not deliquescent. What is deliquescent? Deliquescence is a property of salt. Remember, salt can be efflorescent, deliquescent, and hygroscopic. Efflorescent is simply salt, or they are salts which contain water of crystallization. When exposed to the atmosphere, they lose some of the water of crystallization, or all. When they lose some, they form lower hydrates, and when they lose all, they become anhydrous. Deliquescence is when salts or substances absorb moisture from the atmosphere, or to the extent they become solution, they dissolve. So it is not bad, it is not good for drying agent. While hygroscopy, on the other hand, is when substances or salts absorb water or moisture from the atmosphere, but they do not dissolve, they don't turn into solution. So this ammonia is produced. Now in the industry, like I explained in my industrial processes, I explained that ammonia is produced in the industry via a process called Haber process. So ammonia and hydrogen gas react in Haber process. Nitrogen and hydrogen gas react in Haber process to give you ammonia gas. So we prepared gases now. So let's see other gases that should be prepared under non-metals and their compounds. Sulfur 4 oxide. In the laboratory, sulfur 4 oxide is prepared by heating sodium trisulfate 4 with dilute acid. As you can see, sodium trisulfate 4 reacts with dilute acid in this reaction to give us sulfur 4 oxide. So sulfur 4 oxide gas. Also, heating of concentrated H2SO4 with copper, heating skunk H2SO4 with copper, SO2 will be given off sulfur 4 oxide. So these are the ways we can prepare sulfur 4 oxide in the lab. How about in the industry? Burning of sulfur in oxygen will give rise to sulfur 4 oxide in the industry. Now, carbon 4 oxide. Air is a mixture. It contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon 4 oxide, argon, other gases, and impurities. So to prepare carbon 4 oxide, the first method is action of dilute acid on triazocarbonate 4 or hydrogen triazocarbonate 4 in a Gibbs apparatus. This is one way to prepare carbon 4 oxide in the lab. Now, what is Gibbs apparatus? Gibbs apparatus is an apparatus designed or invented by Gibbs in 1844. It is used to prepare small volume of gases. After all, it is laboratory preparation. Laboratory preparation are simply used to prepare gases in small volume. You don't need much of them. While in industry, we prepare gases in volume. So that is why in lab for experiment or for certain things, you just prepare small volume. But if you are selling or in large scale, large production, you prepare gases in the industry, in which Gibbs apparatus, when CaCO3 react with HCl, calcium triazocarbonate react with hydrogen chloride to give you CO2. Also, thermal decomposition of metallic triazocarbonate will give you carbon 4 oxide. When I was explaining carbon and its metals and their compounds and decomposition of metals, I explained that triazocarbonates can decompose to give off carbon 4 oxide. But sodium and calcium triazocarbonate, they don't decompose. Copper and the rest, they can decompose, but sodium and let's say sodium triazocarbonate Na2CO3, potassium, this should be K2CO3. These guys, they don't decompose at all. but others decompose to give off carbon 4 oxide. So these are the ways we can prepare carbon 4 oxide in the lab. How about in the industry? Now, carbon 4 oxide is a byproduct of fermentation. During fermentation, carbon 4 oxide is given off. And also, carbon 4 oxide is a byproduct when limestone CaCO3 is heated to give quicklime calcium oxide. So these are ways to prepare sulfur 4 oxide and carbon 4 oxide. Let's look at 3 other gases. Nitrogen 4 oxide is prepared in the lab by thermal decomposition of lead triazonitrate 5. As you can see, nitrogen 4 oxide is prepared. And it's also dinitrogen 1 oxide. This is also referred to as laughing gas. When you inhale it, you begin to laugh. So, to prepare laughing gas is simply by thermal decomposition of ammonium triazonitrate. So the first step is potassium triazonitrate reacts with ammonium chloride to produce ammonium triazonitrate. And this ammonium triazonitrate decomposes to give you dinitrogen 1 oxide, which is laughing gas. Industrial, no, not applicable. Hydrogen chloride gas can be prepared in the lab by action of concentrated H2SO4 on sodium chloride. As you can see, conc H2SO4 reacts with sodium chloride and hydrogen gas is given off. It is prepared by direct combination of hydrogen gas and chlorine gas. As you can see, hydrogen gas combines with chlorine gas to give you hydrogen chloride gas. So that is it for preparation of gases. The next step is drying and collection. Drying is simply removal of water, while dehydration is removal of elements that make up water, and it can alter the substance. So to dry gas, we mostly make use of hygroscopic substances. These substances, they absorb moisture or water from the atmosphere, but do not turn into solution. Now, after drying gases, we talk about collection of gases. If a gas is insoluble in water, it can be collected over water. But if it is soluble in water, we can't collect it over water so that it doesn't dissolve. So we collect it by upward delivery, downward delivery, or collection over mercury. Now, hydrogen gas is insoluble in water, so it can be collected over water. Look at it. Sulfur 4 oxide, hydrogen sulfide, and HCl, Cl2 and CO2, they are denser than air. So they are collected by downward delivery. So the gases denser than air are collected by downward delivery. Now, ammonia and hydrogen, they are less dense than air. So they are collected by upward delivery. If a gas is soluble in water and has almost the same density as air, then it is collected over mercury. We can add oxygen as example as well. Now that we've done collection of gases, how about drying of gases? To dry gases, we use drying agents. So these are drying agents. Conc H2SO4, fused calcium chloride, calcium oxide, quicklime, potassium oxide, silica gel. Concentrated H2SO4 is used to dry all gases except ammonia and hydrogen sulfide gas. Fused calcium chloride is used to dry all gases except ammonia. Calcium oxide is used to dry ammonia in particular. Potassium oxide is used to dry all gases except ammonia. Silica gel is used to dry all gases. So these are drying agents and these are methods of collecting gases. The next thing is physical properties of gases. Then we go into uses of gases. So far, we've discussed the preparation of gases and drying and collection of gases. Now let's take a look at physical properties of gases. The hydrogen gas is colorless, odorless, and it is neutral. The oxygen gas is colorless, odorless, and neutral. Nitrogen gas is colorless, odorless, and neutral. What does that mean? It means in terms of color, smell, and pH, hydrogen gas, oxygen gas, and nitrogen gas, they have the same properties. The laughing gas is colorless. It has faint or sickly smell, and it is neutral, which means it is not acidic or basic. Chlorine gas has greenish yellow color. This is the color of chlorine gas. Then it has choking and irritating smell. Then it is acidic. It's an acidic gas. Hydrogen chloride gas is also an acidic gas. It is colorless. It has choking and irritating smell. Carbon dioxide gas is colorless and odorless, but it is acidic. It has pH lesser than 7. 7 is neutral and above 7 is basic. And nitrogen oxide is reddish brown in color. It has pungent smell and it is acidic. Sulfur oxide is colorless. Then it has the smell of burning matches. When you are burning matches, that smell. So that is the smell of sulfur oxide and it is acidic gas. Hydrogen sulfide gas is colorless and it has rotten egg smell. Then it is acidic. Ammonia gas is colorless. It has pungent or urine smell and it is an alkaline gas. So out of all these gases, only ammonia gas is alkaline. So that is it for the physical properties of gases. So take a look at them over and over and over until you master them. Now let's take a look at the uses and tests for gases. What are these gases used for and how do we test them? So let's begin with hydrogen. The hydrogen gas is used in filling balloons. It is used in hardening soils. It is used to prepare ammonia and hydrogen bomb. So don't worry, whether you see the writings or not, I'll still explain them and expand them as well. So hydrogen gas is used in filling balloons. It is used in hardening soils. It is used in preparation of ammonia and hydrogen bomb. Then oxygen gas is used in oxyacetylene flame for welding and in medicine. The use of nitrogen gas is making of ammonia. It is also used to make fertilizers. It is used as cooling agent and also to prevent rancidity in fat, unsaturated fat, so that they don't smell, especially in packaged foods. Then laughing gas or dinitrogen 1 oxide is used as anesthetic in surgery. So when it's used on you, you sleep off. So when they are carrying surgery on you, you don't feel the pain. That is anesthetic. And chlorine gas is used as germicide to kill germs. It is used as bleaching agent. It is used to make industrial solvent like chloroforms. Now, the bleaching agent of sulfur oxide the bleaching agent of chlorine is by oxidation, while the bleaching agent of sulfur oxide is by reduction. So both of them they bleach. But while chlorine gas bleaches by oxidation, sulfur oxide bleaches by reduction. Having issue with oxidation and reduction, check my previous video. Everything covered. Hydrogen chloride gas is used in the preparation of hydrochloric acid. There is a difference between hydrogen chloride and hydrochloric acid. Hydrogen chloride is gaseous. Now, when hydrogen chloride is dissolved in water, it forms, or hydrochloric acid is formed, so it is aqueous. Aqueous means the compound is in solution or dissolved in water. The carbon dioxide is used as fire extinguisher. Why? It is denser than air and doesn't support combustion. Then carbon dioxide is what gives soft drinks that refreshing taste. When you open a soft drink, that refreshing taste, that is, or smell, is as a result of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is used to produce sodium trisulcarbonate, and it is used to make dough. Dough, like it helps to make dough rise during baking. When you are baking bread, the rising of that dough is a result of carbon dioxide. And nitrogen oxide is used in making triazonitrate 5. Then sulfur oxide is used in making H2SO4. It is used to destroy termites. It is used as bleaching agent. It is used as refrigerant, and it's also used as preservative. What is refrigerant? Refrigerant, they actually used in air conditioners or refrigerators. They are the things that absorb the hotness from the room and gives you that cold feeling. That is refrigerant. So dry ice can be used as refrigerant as well. Then hydrogen sulfide is used in analyzing of ORE. And ammonia is used to reduce temporary hardness from water. It is used as refrigerant, it is used as fertilizer, and it is used to make sodium carbonate. So you can go back to where I started, go through the uses until you master them. And finally, test for gases. Test for hydrogen gas. It gives pale blue flame when burned, and it gives a pop sound. That is how you know that hydrogen gas is present. Now, oxygen gas, the test for oxygen gas is that it rekindles a glowing splint. Whether it is glowing very bright or not, it helps to rekindle a glowing splint. And nitrogen does not support combustion. It is the component of air that helps to stop that burning, and it has other uses. as well, which I will treat soon. Then dinitrogen monoxide, laughing gas, it helps to rekindle brightly lit glowing splint. Hydrogen oxygen gas can rekindle glowing splint whether it is bright or not, but this guy can only rekindle brightly glowing splint. Then chlorine gas turns blue litmus red and bleaches it. Then it turns starch iodide paper blue. That is test for chlorine gas. Then hydrogen chloride gas, it fumes in moist air and it turns blue litmus red. That is the test for hydrogen chloride gas. Then it forms dense white fumes with ammonia. Then nitrogen 4 oxide is formed red. It's a reddish brown gas. That is the test from the color. So for 4 oxide, it turns acidified potassium tetraazomanganate 7 from purple to colorless. It also turns potassium heptaazodichromate 6 from orange to green. Then hydrogen sulfide. The test for hydrogen sulfide is that it turns lead ethanoate paper black. Then ammonia, it turns moist red litmus paper blue and it forms dense white fumes with concentrated HCl. Nitrogen gas and carbon 4 oxide gas properly. If you have a flaming wooden splint or piece of paper, once it is passed through nitrogen gas, it will turn off. So that is a good test for nitrogen gas. Nitrogen does not support burning. So the test for nitrogen gas is that it turns off flaming wooden splint or piece of paper. And the best test for carbon 4 oxide is that it turns lime water milky when bubble through it. So when you bubble carbon 4 oxide through lime water, it will turn lime water milky. So which is a very popular test. So that is it for the physical properties, uses, and tests for gases. What next? Inorganic acids, allotropy, coal, and so on. So let's rush through these other guys. In my organic chemistry video, I talked about organic acids. Like I said earlier, ethanoic acids, propanoic acids, butanoic acids, and so on. But in non-metals and their compounds, we shall be dealing with inorganic acids, mainly hydrochloric acid, triazonitrate 5 acid, and hydrogen tetraazosulfate 6 acid. Look at it. When hydrogen chloride dissolves in water, hydrochloric acid is formed, HCl aqueous. Now, HNO3 is also referred to as aqua fortis. This is because it looks exactly like water and it has the same viscosity as water. HNO3 is prepared when KNO3 reacts with H2SO4. So it is prepared. When NaNO3 reacts with H2SO4, HNO3 is prepared. What does that mean? It simply means that when metallic triazocarbonate, triazonitrates, react with H2SO4, HNO3 is liberated. When metallic triazonitrates react with H2SO4, HNO3 is liberated. And industrial preparation of triazonitrate 5 acid is by Oswald process. I explained all that in industrial processes video. Check that video. And H2SO4 is also called oil of vitriol. This is because it is prepared by heating, burning of green iron, which is called green vitriol. It is prepared by contact process, which I also explained in industrial process, but I decided to also list out the step here. The first step in contact process is sulfur reacting with oxygen to produce sulfur 4 oxide. Then the sulfur 4 oxide produced is in turn reacted with oxygen in the presence of vanadium 5 oxide as catalyst to form SO3. Now, this SO3 produced is in turn react with H2SO4 to form oleum, which is H2S2O7. And H2S2O7 is dissolved in water to produce H2SO4. The H2SO4 produced in contact process is 98%, while another way to produce H2SO4 is lead chamber process. In this case, 65% H2SO4 is produced and NO2 is used as catalyst. It's almost the same step as the contact process. Now, uses of inorganic acids. The first use of HCl is qualitative analysis in lab. It is also used in pickling. Pickling is removing of rust from metals. That is pickling, removing of rust from metals. Then HCl is used to manufacture dyes, textiles, glue, and gelatin. Then the uses of HNO3, they are used to make aqua regia. Aqua regia are solvents used for dissolving gold and platinums. They are also used for making fertilizers, explosives, and dyes. Then the uses of H2SO4, they are used as electrolytes in lead acid accumulator and battery. They are used as drying agents. They are used to remove rust from metals. They are used to manufacture dyes, paints, detergents, drugs, and explosives. And these are notable properties of HNO3 and H2SO4. HNO3 is a strong oxidizing agent. So I've taught oxidizing agent, oxidation number, and all that in another video. Just check Flasina's YouTube channel, go to the chemistry playlist, you'll see everything. Then dilute HNO3 does not liberate hydrogen from metals. Look at it. Dilute HNO3, it has all the properties of acid, inorganic acid, except that it does not liberate hydrogen from metals. Why? The hydrogen form is immediately oxidized to water, so that's why it does not liberate hydrogen. Then it reacts with copper to form NO and NO2. Then conc H2SO4, hot concentrated H2SO4, is an oxidizing agent. Conc H2SO4 is a dehydrating agent. There is difference between drying and dehydration. Drying is the removal of water, while dehydration is the removal of elements that make up water, either hydrogen ion or hydroxy ion. Then conc H2SO4 is hygroscopic. Yes, for you to be a drying agent, there is high chance that you are hygroscopic. Hygroscopic substances, they absorb moisture or water from substances or the atmosphere, but they don't turn into solution. Then dilute H2SO4 has all the properties of acids. So with that, we've talked about inorganic acids. Now, I want to quickly go through allotropes, co-ops of non-metals quickly. While giving the uses of non-metals, I wrote this down but failed to explain them. So let me explain. Any part I explain, I wipe them off to make the board cleaner for me and for you. So radon is a non-metal. It is a noble gas, the inert gases, so it is radioactive. It is used to treat cancer. Neon produces reddish orange glow and it is used in aerodrome. So it produces reddish orange glow used in aerodrome. Krypton and xenon, they are used in photographers' flash tube. Then argon is used in gas-filled electrical lamps, while helium is used to fuel balloons. Now, all these things, they are very, very important. I actually advise that you watch this video as many times as possible. Trust me, the more you watch, the more you get new things. Watch it up to 5, 6, 7 times for your own good. Now, allotropes. There is something called polymorphism. Polymorphism is when a substance exists in different forms under the same physical state. For example, let's say this thing under the same temperature, pressure, the same physical condition, this thing will also behave as this. So in different form under the same physical condition. That is polymorphism in compounds and in substances. But when polymorphism occurs in elements, we call that allotropy or allotropes. So allotropy is simply a phenomenon where an element exists in different forms under the same physical condition. A common one is carbon. Carbon exists as diamond and graphite. These are allotropes of carbon, which means under the same physical condition, you can find carbon as diamond, you can find graphite. In fact, they exist differently. You see them. This is carbon, this is graphite. Now, I wrote out some properties of diamond and graphite. Diamond is octahedral crystal, while graphite is hexagonal crystal. Diamond is 3D lattice structure, while graphite is 2D lattice structure. Diamond is one of the hardest known substance. Why some persons even believe that it is the hardest known substance. While graphite is one of the softest substance. It can even mark paper, which makes it to be used to make pencils. While diamonds are used to cut glasses. Diamonds are used in jewelries. Then graphites are used in electrodes. They are used for making pens and moderation to slow down neutrons in nuclear reactors. Then diamonds are non-conductors, while graphite are better conductors. Diamond is colorless and transparent, but graphite is black and opaque. Now you see something, the same carbon under the same physical condition exists as diamond and graphite, and you see their characters almost contradicting, different. So that is allotropy. Sulfur exhibits allotropy to give us, we have crystalline allotrope of sulfur and amorphous allotrope of sulfur. The crystalline allotropes are rhombic sulfur and monoclinic sulfur. The rhombic sulfur is also called alpha sulfur, while monoclinic is called beta sulfur. The rhombic sulfur is bright yellow. Monoclinic sulfur is amber. The rhombic sulfur is octahedral in shape, while monoclinic sulfur is needle shaped. For the amorphous sulfur, we have the amorphous and plastic. So, rhombic, monoclinic, amorphous, and plastic, they are allotropes of sulfur. Then oxygen, the allotrope of oxygen are dioxygen and trioxygen. Dioxygen is the normal oxygen, O2, while trioxygen is ozone. It occurs very, very high. So ozone forms protective layer in the atmosphere. So O3 is ozone, O2 is oxygen or dioxygen. Then phosphorus, the allotropes of phosphorus are white phosphorus, red phosphorus, and black phosphorus. Look at non-metals and their ore, where they are gotten from their source. So for graphite, the ore is plumbago. For phosphorus, the ore is rock phosphate or apatite. So taking note of the pronunciation. For silicon, it is silica, quartz, flint, or sand. Silica, quartz, flint, sand, they are all of silicon. While phosphorus, they are cryolite or fluorspar. Cryolite is simply sodium hexacyanoferric ion. So that is cryolite. Then coal. Coal, they are formed from vegetable matter due to carbonization for a long period. Now, coal exists as peat, lignite, which is brown coal, bitumen, and anthracite. Anthracite is the purest form of coal and it is the hardest form of coal. Now, coal can undergo destructive distillation. What is destructive distillation? Destructive distillation simply means burning in the absence of air. When you burn coal in the absence of air, you get coke, ammoniacal liquor, coal tar, or coal gases. These are products of destructive distillation of coal. Coke, ammoniacal liquor, coal tar, and coal gases. While destructive distillation of wood will give you wood charcoal, wood tar, wood gas, and pyroligneous acid. Talking about charcoal, we have three types of charcoal. Animal charcoal from the burning of animal or animal parts, wood charcoal from the burning of wood, sugar charcoal from dehydration of sugar, we form sugar charcoal. Wow, that should be a whole lot of things for you. So what else? Okay, look at extraction of sulfur. Extraction of sulfur is done in the industry, which is called Frax process. Frax process is used to produce sulfur. I explained that in my industrial processes video. So it is hydrogen sulfide reacting with oxygen to form water and sulfur. So sulfur is produced from Frax process. Now let's take a look at the oxides. Oxides are formed when oxygen reacts with any other element, one other element. So oxides are mainly from oxygen, hydrides, then gaseous fuel, isotopes of hydrogen and halogen. So I'll write out the important things, explain them, then we call it a day. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. Okay? We started from the bottom, now we are here. So I will take this randomly. I'll begin with the uses of halogen. The halogen families are chlorine, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine. These are the families of halogen. Now, fluorine is a greenish yellow gas which is used to make toothpaste and hydrofluoric acid. Chlorine is a yellow gas, and I already gave the uses earlier. Meanwhile, bromine is a reddish brown gas. It is used to make 1,2-dibromoethane, which is used to as petrol additive. It acts as anti-knock. So that is the use of 1,2-dibromoethane. It replaced lead tetraethyl, which was formerly used as petroleum additive. Iodine is a black solid. It is used to treat teeth goiter, and it's also used to make tincture of iodine. Tincture of iodine is a compound, or it's a mixture of iodine and alcohol or ethanol for cleaning wounds in the hospital. While astatine is a radioactive element. Radioactive elements are elements that disintegrate spontaneously to emit radiation. I explained that in my radioactive activity video. You see alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma rays. Then the isotope of hydrogen are protium, deuterium, and tritium. What is isotope? Isotope is a phenomenon where an element with the same atomic number has different mass number. Now in this case, hydrogen has atomic number of 1, but in protium it has mass of 1, in deuterium it has mass of 2, in tritium it has mass of 3. These are isotopes of hydrogen. Now, deuterium forms an oxide. Deuterium is this, H1. It forms a compound called deuterium oxide. So deuterium oxide is referred to as heavy water. Anytime you see heavy water, know that we are talking about deuterium oxide. Now, gaseous fuel and gasification of coke. So in that case, we have water gas, producer gas, and synthesis gas. Water gas is simply a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. It is made from coke. When coke reacts with steam at 1000 degrees Celsius, we have water gas. Producer gas is formed from reaction of air and coke. So look at air reacting with coke, carbon, to give you producer gas, which is carbon monoxide and nitrogen. The synthesis gas is from ammonia, methane, and water gas, H2O gas. So ammonia plus water gas in the presence of nickel catalyst at 800 degrees Celsius will give you carbon monoxide and H2, which is 3H2. So this is synthesis gas. Water gas is CO and H2. Synthesis gas is CO and 3H2. Having done this, let's take a look at oxides. So this implies that we've covered halogens, isotopes of hydrogen, gaseous fuel, extraction of sulfur. Now, oxides are compounds formed when oxygen reacts with any other element alone. We have different types of oxides. We have acidic oxides, basic oxides, amphoteric oxides, neutral oxides, and peroxides. Now, acidic oxides, they are CO2, SO3, and NO3. They are oxides of known metals. 1 and 2. They dissolve in water to form acid. This is why they are also referred to as acid anhydrides. Basic oxides, on the other hand, they are oxides of metal. Now, when these oxides react with acid, they form salt and water only. Amphoteric oxides, example is zinc oxide and aluminic oxide. This aluminic oxide is used as mordant in dyeing. It helps dye to stick to clothes. Now, acidic oxide, amphoteric oxide, they are both acidic oxide and basic oxide. They combine the property of acidic and basic oxides. While neutral oxides are oxides that are neither acidic nor basic. So carbon monoxide, N2O, they are neutral oxides. Then we have peroxides. Peroxides are oxides in which oxygen exhibits oxidation number of -1. Remember, when I was treating oxidation number, I stated that the oxidation number of oxygen is -2 in most compounds except in peroxide. So in peroxides, oxygen exhibits oxidation number of -1, and peroxides are hydrogen peroxide H2O2, sodium peroxide, calcium peroxide, and barium peroxide. Then hydrides. What are hydrides? When hydrogen reacts with any other element, they form hydrides, just as when oxygen reacts with any other element alone, they form oxides. Now we have ionic hydrides. This is when hydrogen reacts with metal. Example is sodium hydride and calcium hydride. We have covalent hydride. When hydrogen is covalently bonded with any other element, or when it reacts with no metals. Water, hydrogen fluoride, and methane are covalent hydrides. Now, there is something called complex covalent hydride. In this situation, hydrogen combine with two other elements to form hydride instead of just one. And examples of that are lithium aluminum hydride, sodium barium hydride. So, ladies and gentlemen, representative of elements, non-metals, and their compounds. That is it. So I hope you found this helpful. It took a lot of time to compile this together. So if you appreciate my class, subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell to get updates on my new videos. And feel free to check out Flash Learners YouTube channel for more amazing videos. Most importantly, tell others, tell your friends about Flash Learners. Thank you.